Trucks are Uwe Bertalot's passion. This is his club's workshop. The club members are all fans of technology. They meet up every Monday.
So, runter, Vorsicht.
In their free time, they've welded together and restored a total of 30 vehicles.
We look for models missing from our collection. We found several. One of them, interestingly enough, in Russia. My colleagues who used to develop prototypes are working on it now. The funny thing is that these are people who built the truck nearly 30 years ago, and now they're restoring it.
Their L60 is a rare prototype that never went into serial production. All the vehicles here were built in Ludwigsfelde before the fall of communism. Rolf Dietrich was born on November 9, 1989, the day the Berlin Wall fell. He turns 20 this year and, just like the older club members, is a great fan of technology.
I started out tinkering with bicycles and mopeds, and now cars. My training has intensified that interest. I've always been interested in mechanics, how cars are built, why they work, and what engines look like from the inside.
On his way to work, Uwe Bertalot drives through the grounds of what was once the state-owned IFA automobile factory in Ludwigsfelde. 10,000 people used to work here. Nowadays, the grounds and buildings are used by new companies, attracted by subsidies and 30% tax breaks. Bertalot works for the largest company, Mercedes-Benz. Trucks used to run off the assembly lines here. Now it's vans. Bertalot plans assembly facilities. He was here in 1991 when Daimler took over operations.
The attraction was our truck division with its huge export orientation. 70 to 80% of our vehicles went abroad, mainly to Eastern Bloc countries. They wanted to continue serving that market.
The Ludwigsfelde workers' know-how was in demand. Only well-trained, skilled laborers manned the assembly lines. These photos were taken around the time when the wall fell. Back then, the employees wanted to make their factory attractive to Daimler, so they spruced up the paint shop.
When I started in 1988, it was a dark and dingy place. And here you can see how it was painted back then. Production of the L60 stopped in September 1990. Because of the planned economy, the paint had been ordered at the beginning of the year, so there were huge amounts of this green vehicle paint left over. So we painted the paint shop with it, including the walls. It was an attempt to spruce up the factory.
So haben wir das Werk versucht, schön zu machen.
Ludwigsfelde itself was never really known for its natural beauty. These days, Uwe Bertalot owns a small house. Before the collapse of communism, he lived in this prefab apartment block. It was built as a quick solution to provide housing for the growing workforce as the factory expanded rapidly during the 1970s. A motorway runs right through the town. Nowadays, that's an advantage for about 1,000 large and small businesses. Bertalot tells us there was a great deal of investment here after the Berlin Wall fell, and with 10% unemployment, Ludwigsfelde is actually doing much better than many places in the former East Germany. Sometimes, Bertalot visits the town's small museum of technology. It displays typical products of the planned economy and its demise. When the state-run companies collapsed, 6,000 local residents lost their jobs.
You have to remember that in the fall of 1989, people took to the streets, and in the summer of 1990, the first people lost their jobs. Of course, none of us wanted that.
Rolf Dietrich, born the year the wall fell, works a few hundred meters away at MTU maintenance. Aircraft engines were inspected and serviced during the communist era, back then as a state-run operation. In the future, MTU will also be making engines with a long-term order from Airbus playing a big part. Dietrich will be staying with the company. He's finished his training as a mechanic. Now he's going to train as an inspector. Professionally, Ludwigsfelde has a lot to offer him.
Guck mal, wer da kommt.
The only disadvantage is there is not much to do in the evenings after work.
Naja. Wie war denn die Klausur?
Naja, ging so. Mal gucken.
Dietrich and his girlfriend have nowhere to go. The local cinema has been closed for years. There are no pubs or cafes that cater for young people. So they often go to Berlin, some 20 kilometers away.
I would be willing to leave. MTU isn't just in Ludwigsfelde. It has branches in Munich, Hanover, Shanghai, and now in Poland. I'd certainly consider looking around to see how it is elsewhere. I'm not tied to Ludwigsfelde.
But for the time being, they're planning Dietrich's birthday on November 9th.